Now, we've heard this time and time again. Social media for young people, it can have a negative effect on their mental health. Absolutely. But did you know the same could be said for too little screen time?
This has been conducted in a study, and principal investigator on it is Richard Lake, Professor of Sociology at Trinity College Dublin. Richard, it's lovely to have you here. And
good morning.
Honestly, when we were reading this, I was like, no, this can't, because we're always told, get them off the screens, get them off the screens.
Yeah.
How can there be a negative effect, having too little screen time?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? But you've got to remember that human beings live in groups. You know, part of our well-being is built upon our relationships with other people, and they can be with our family, you know, with mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, uncles and grandparents, but it can also be with our friends. You know, humans are interesting as a species because we have these friends, you know, outside of our family, and they make a huge difference to how you feel about yourself and how you feel about the world and about your mood. And of course, if you're not in contact with those people, if you don't have a social network, as sociologists call it, who you're regularly seeing and regularly talking to, that can have consequences for you, you know. So if you're not using social media, then you're not using one of the primary forms nowadays that people use to get in touch with each other. So it's just another form of communication. And if you're not engaged in that form of communication, well, then maybe you're missing out on lots of opportunities for contact, you know, and for connection with other people. And that can have consequences for mental health.
So how do we break down what's too little and what's too much?
Yeah, that's the difficulty, isn't it? It's that what's the ideal? And this is, every parent would like to know this, wouldn't they? You know, as a parent of 3 kids, I would like to understand how much should they be using social media?
Yeah.
How do I spot the signs when it's presenting a difficulty? OK, so I can't tell you that we know the ideal, OK? So what we're doing is we're following a group of young people, and we have been since the age of 9, growing up in Ireland. I don't know if
Yeah, the Growing Up in Ireland survey, which is fascinating.
Government-funded a piece of research.
Yep.
20,000 children followed over time. This group followed from age 9 through to age 18. And we are able to observe not only their social media usage and online time, but we've got these very detailed batteries of questions asking them about their mental well-being. And we can look at the association between these two things over time, longitudinally, as we call it.
So what have you worked out? So is there a minimum? Like what for parents
is it
here?
the Goldilocks zone?
Yeah,
What is that?
I'm not trying to avoid the question, all right? What we see is that when they're not using any social media at all, what you tend to see is you see worse mental well-being. OK, so they're more likely to have what we call internalising and externalising conditions. And then as the amount of usage goes up, when it gets to about an hour, 2 hours a day, then the sort of well-being is at its maximum, and then it worsens. So it's like a U-shaped curve. And as they use more social media, as they use more time online, then their well-being goes down, and that effect kind of accelerates with 3+ hours a day.
So is there a difference between social media usage and being on your computer? Like, say you're gaming. Like, I know there's loads of games where you chat and all that kind of stuff, and it is sort of a social media. But is there a difference between them in connecting?
It's not just about time online, it's what you're doing online.
OK.
So if you've got a pre-existing network of friends and you're connecting with them online, you know, so you're using it just as a way, a conduit towards your friends, and you're reaffirming those connections, well, then it can be really positive, OK? And what you tend to find is that the people spending time online doing that have also got a lot of face-to-face time with their friends too. But the difficulty comes with those people who are already feeling lonely, already feeling alienated, maybe a little bit detached from their social networks. And then they can be using the internet as a way of kind of avoidance. It's kind of like a displacement behaviour, as we call it. It's a behaviour that is displacing other types of well-being and types of behaviour. Now, that's about the benefits in the sense that connection can give you. But there's also other effects of time online, which are around things like sleep. It's something that we don't think about too much, OK? But if young people often have their phone with them all the time. In fact, you know, we ask young people scales of internet addiction. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a high proportion of those that couldn't be without their phone. They feel anxious when they don't have their phones. And what you often find is that people have their phone by their bed and they're looking at the phone late into the night. And one of the primary pathways that we found between high online time and poor mental well-being, particularly things like depression, was actually displacement of sleep. So poor quality sleep, trouble getting to sleep, short amounts of sleep, under 7 hours a night.
We see all the time, and people are said to leave your phone out of the room, leave it downstairs, because when you have that phone in your room and it's buzzing away, whatever else, it's going to be hard to sleep. From your research with so many children at this sort of key age group, are you concerned with the effects social media and phones is having on this age group? And are you more concerned for boys or girls?
So we've been following these people, as I say, from 9, all right? And that's from about 2008. And if you think about it, we've really only had smartphones in our society since that time.
We don't have much time here.
Recent development.
Like, so, I mean, is this a real concern? Like,
and it's a real concern.
Yeah.
We see worsening mental health amongst Irish young people and amongst young people more generally across different societies, OK? And that effect in Ireland is serious, and we should have concerns about that. The big question is, to what extent is it related to mobile online use?
Yeah.
To what extent is it connected to that kind of online experience? And if it is, well, then we need to think about what we're going to do about that. And that has policy and practice implications, not only for how governments should regulate use of the internet, but also how families should help their children to use it in a more healthy fashion, so that they're not suffering in terms of mental health.
I think that the study is going to be happening on this for years to come. But interesting, the Goldilocks zone. If you've got friends, social media, no more than a couple of hours a day, which is very interesting. So this is the Growing Up in Ireland. Listen, I need to stay away from my phone. It's absolutely wrecking my head. Yeah. So Professor of Sociology at Trinity College Dublin, Richard Lake, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We still have loads more to come this morning on Ireland AM.
See you after the short break.